He noticed him because he never looked up. Every evening at 7:15 p.m., when the streetlights flickered on and the corner diner's neon sign buzzed to life, Elena Ramirez sat at the same worn booth by the window, nursing a single cup of black coffee that had gone cold hours ago. She would trace patterns on the fogged glass, staring at the spot across from her where laughter used to fill the air. That's when she first saw him. A quiet man in a threadbare coat, boots cracked from too many winters, shuffling past with measured steps that spoke of someone trying not to be noticed. He never lingered, never pleaded, never even paused long enough for pity to settle. But loneliness has its own language. It shows in the way a person's eyes flick toward the warmth inside and then drop away, as if hoping no one saw the longing. Elena watched him for 4 evenings before she acted on the 5th. She stepped outside into the chill, paper bag in hand. "Hey," she called softly. He froze mid-step, shoulders hunching like he expected trouble. She extended the bag. "Extra burger for my shift." Couldn't finish it. It was a small lie, Elena had skipped her own meal to buy it fresh. The man studied her face, not with suspicion, but with the careful measurement of someone who'd been burned by offers before. Then he took the bag with hands that shook just a little. "Appreciate it," he murmured, voice rough like gravel under tires. And just like that, a quiet routine took root. Elena Ramirez was 34, a waitress by night, a single mother by day, and a widow by a cruel twist of fate. 3 years earlier, her husband Javier had been killed in a construction accident on a site that cut corners to save pennies. Since then, her world had shrunk to 2 priorities: paying the rent on their tiny apartment and raising her 10-year-old son, Mateo. Mateo was light in the darkness, bright eyes, endless curiosity, drawings of spaceships taped to every wall. He still talked to his dad in the stars, convinced Javier was watching over them. Elena never corrected him, some beliefs were too fragile to break. Bills piled up like autumn leaves, but Elena had learned something in the aftermath of loss: sorrow doesn't ask for your tax bracket, and isolation doesn't care how much is in your wallet. So each evening after her shift, she ordered an extra meal for him. His name, she discovered after a couple of weeks, was Thomas Hale. Thomas lived in a cramped basement room in the Old Mill district, where the walls sweated in summer and frost bloomed in winter. He picked up day labor when jobs appeared, fixed small engines for neighbors when they didn't, and carried a weariness that seemed etched into his bones. Elena never pressed for details. Thomas never offered many. But gradually, the silences grew comfortable. "You don't need to keep doing this," he said one rainy night, rain drumming on the diner's awning like impatient fingers. "I know," Elena replied. "But I choose to." He looked away, eyes shining with something rawer than thanks. Autumn turned sharp and biting. The diner cut hours. Nights grew longer, colder. Thomas's coat looked thinner, his cough deeper. Elena started adding soup, then a scarf she knitted herself during slow shifts. One evening, after a fit of coughing he tried to muffle, she spoke the words that even surprised her. "You need to see a doctor." He shook his head. "Can't pay for that." "I know a clinic," she said. Another small lie, she didn't, but she would make it happen. And she did, a free community health center run by a doctor who remembered Elena from when she'd volunteered there years ago. Diagnosis: chronic bronchitis, bordering on something worse if ignored. Elena covered the antibiotics with the money she'd saved for Mateo's new school shoes. When Mateo learned why the shoes would wait, he didn't complain. He simply hugged her tight. "Dad would say you did the right thing," he whispered. Elena cried quietly that night for the first time in years. Weeks turned into months. Thomas grew stronger, color returned to his face, his steps firmer. But something shifted beyond recovery. He began arriving earlier, waiting outside the diner with 2 coffees in hand. They talked about Mateo's latest inventions, about Javier's love for old cars, about Thomas's childhood in a small mountain town he rarely named. Elena noticed how he skirted certain memories, like avoiding cracks in a sidewalk. One evening, Thomas slid a small, carefully wrapped package across the table. "What's this?" she asked. "A thank you." Inside was a simple silver keychain engraved with a tiny star. For the one who reminded me stars still shine even when you can't see them, the note read. Elena carried it in her pocket every shift after that. Then came the evening everything changed. It was early summer, air soft and full of promise. Elena arrived at 7:15. Thomas wasn't there. She waited, 7:30, 7:45. No Thomas. Instead, two sleek black cars pulled up smoothly to the curb. Four men emerged first, tall, polished, radiating quiet power in tailored suits. Behind them walked two attorneys with briefcases, and then Thomas, but not the Thomas she knew. He wore a crisp charcoal suit, hair neatly trimmed, posture straight and assured, like a man who commanded rooms without raising his voice. Elena stood rooted, coffee cup forgotten in her hand. "Thomas," she breathed. He offered a gentle, bittersweet smile. "My real name is Theodore Langford," he said quietly. The words landed like stones in still water. Shock rippled through her. One of the attorneys approached. "Ms. Ramirez, we've been trying to locate Mr. Langford for nearly a year." Elena blinked. Locate? Theodore, Thomas, met her eyes. "I chose to disappear," he explained softly. Theodore Langford is the sole heir to Langford Enterprises, one of the largest private foundations supporting community health and housing in the region. After my wife passed, the weight of it all, the board meetings, the endless expectations, people seeing only dollar signs, became unbearable. I wanted to know if real connection still existed without my name attached. Elena listened, heart twisting with a mix of understanding and quiet ache. "You could have told me." "I was scared," he admitted. "Scared you'd see the fortune instead of the man." The security detail stayed back, silent guardians. The lawyers outlined obligations, board votes pending, projects stalled, responsibilities calling him back. Elena caught only pieces. Finally, she asked the question that cut deepest. "Why did you come back tonight?" Theodore's gaze softened, tears gathering. "Because you were the only real thing in the life I tried to leave behind." Days unfolded in a storm of emotions. Elena grappled with surprise, a flicker of betrayal, pride that refused to bend. Matteo, wise in the way only children can be, cut through it simply. "Did you help him because he looked poor?" Matteo asked over dinner. "Or because he was alone?" Elena paused. "Because he was alone." "Then nothing's different," Matteo said with a shrug. Theodore didn't sweep in as some distant savior. He returned as a friend, visiting the diner on slow nights, meeting Matteo, sitting in that same booth at 7:15, but now he brought the coffee. Together, they built something lasting, an evening support network offering warm meals, basic medical checkups, and quiet conversation to night shift workers, the unhoused, and anyone carrying invisible burdens. Elena didn't become wealthy. She became anchored in purpose. Theodore didn't just step back into his old world, he quietly redirected parts of it, channeling resources toward the very streets where he'd once walked unseen. Months later, Elena watched Matteo and Theodore laughing together at the outreach table outside the diner, summer light catching in Matteo's hair. For the first time since Javier's accident, the emptiness inside her eased, not erased, but gentler. Because kindness, she understood, is never lost. It circles back. Sometimes in forms you never expect. You don't need riches to touch a life. You only need eyes that notice someone who never looks up.